July 5th, 2008, a 50-year-old man named David File walked up to his apartment in Bishopstoke, which is a small village in southern England. This apartment complex was massive. When David moved in 8 years earlier, this apartment complex was sort of bustling and doing quite well. It was a nice place to live. But now, the place was kind of fallen into disrepair. This place really had fallen on hard times, almost like it was abandoned. David was literally the last tenant in the entire complex. There were a total of 72 apartments in this complex, but 71 of them were boarded up and totally abandoned. And on this day, as David approached his front door, he noticed there was something taped to it, and he quickly understood it was an eviction notice. They were kicking him out. This was David's home. He loved it here. He did not want to leave. And so he took this eviction notice and he just threw it on top of a pile of other papers that were mostly all from the company that owned this complex. The company was called Atlantic Housing. Part of the reason this building had really fallen on hard times here is because 2 years earlier, Atlantic Housing had decided to tear this place down. They had offered to help relocate all the tenants, and basically everybody else had agreed to leave and take the assistance from Atlantic Housing, not David. Atlantic Housing got fed up with David. They just sued him. And it took 2 years. And so, David, you're being evicted. He just simply could not accept the ruling. David decides he's gonna protest. He made his way over to his storage closet and he pulled out some rope, an electric timer, and a power tool, brought these supplies over to his living room, rigged up this elaborate trap that when they opened his door, they would have to be confronted by this trap. Earlier that afternoon, David's parents had tried to get in touch with David and they had called him repeatedly, but he hadn't answered. At some point, they had driven over to his apartment, pounded on the door, but he hadn't come to the door. However, they had heard this strange sound. They decided to call the police. Still no answer. The police decide to kick in the door. All of them just froze and gasped. The trap that David had built had functioned exactly as he intended it to. The authorities were gonna come in the front door and be horrified. He was sort of putting himself into a trap as a display of his protest that you can't pull me out of here. A power tool that was on, that was the mechanical whirring sound they heard, and it had been tied by David to one of the legs of his billiard table. And then the tool had this electric timer so that when it went off, it would start the tool. What was this tool? It was a chainsaw. What did David do? He intentionally positioned his neck right up against the teeth of this chainsaw, set the timer so that shortly after getting in position, the timer would go off, it would cut his head off, and then presumably authorities would look inside the apartment and see what, in David's mind, they were responsible for: his death. Shortly after his death, the apartment complex was demolished.